Hey there, everybody. So this is gonna be a pretty short one, and the upcoming videos are about to come out in the coming week or two. Are gonna be really pretty well organized, and are gonna start telling people exactly how to really build things piecemeal and how and document each of the little components. Some of that will be in text too, of course. But this one is just like how to play. The server I just put up, which is right here, is I would call beta probably. It's really together in the systemic thing. You'll see that there's one little feature. It's targets and some specialty supply lines that aren't entirely worked out. Um, but really, that's mostly about display, not how they work. So let's go in and I'll tell you just what you see and what you need to know to play the system, to play the game. Um, this one takes a little while to load. Unfortunately, the only template I have for the statics on Stalingrad is pretty big, and it's just like so annoying to load in all of them and cut it. It takes, I mean, that takes like 35 minutes. It's like crazy. So, I have these like giant block templates, and I make them pretty big so I can move the battle anywhere I want. But then it kind of sucks because then the battle takes a little longer to load. So sorry about that. I will cut this back as soon as this becomes like a real mission. And it's not terrible, and my machine's not that great. Um, so what you're first going to see is nothing actually, except for some airfields. There will generally be more than two, but right now there's just one for each side because they're it's how I have it wired in. When you join a side, you'll start seeing a bunch of icons. These will, of course, be colored. This is the currently live mission. It's going to stay white until I have everything just so, and then I'll change them all to be appropriate. But right now, like I'm copying and pasting these things between sides and stuff, so like I just need it all to be generic. Pick your plane. What plane is available depends on the system state at the moment, and we'll talk about it in just a second. All the state stuff is up here, and that's the really cool stuff, but we're going to talk about this stuff first. So when you come in, your side, if you're German, is over on this. You can tell by looking at the artillery. And the Russians are over here. It's pretty clear, too. This is on normal settings. Not simplified engine or anything, but like you don't have to control mixture or radiator. That will not be the case, by the way, but it is as long as I'm testing. So, because everything just needs to be easy. What you should generally get the idea of, though, is that there's 3 operations per side. In the previous test, we had 4 operations per side. I knocked it to 3, but doubled their units. So we still have the same number of units. Well, we actually have a few more units than we used to, but it runs smaller. So it also runs faster. Um, so you have supply lines, and this is generic. They don't have to be called this, but for this mission, this is what they are. And that's how it is for all the stuff I'm about to say. It's not locked in. Other mission builders don't have to do it this way at all. But this is how this one is built out. So each side has the same kind of setups of units. They have supply lines. Here's supply lines for the Germans, here for the Russians, Air Force. And this is kind of like where they're coming from in the case of the Air Force more than where they are, like they come in. I think I actually have the Russians not coming in as far as they should, but whatever. Uh, Tanks are right here for the Germans and right here for the Russians. The overall idea of this mission, and I kind of put it in here, but just a little bit, is that the Germans kind of blitzed across the Kalak Bridge and have just barely set up over there and have a bunch of tanks, and they're moving up on the Kalak Air Base and they want to get it. They have some supply units, and the supply units really are coming in from here. They're coming in from here, from here, and from here. Yeah, they come all the way around this and come up and around. It's pretty cool. There's actually a circumstance that's going to happen where there's supply units that are German and a Russian train that catches up to them, and they fight each other. It's great. So, sorry, I got distracted by the awesomeness of train battles. Um, so what you generally want to do is you want to protect your units or attack theirs. So the Germans are coming across. Um, and intending to take all this over. They're definitely being the aggressors. The Russians, when the mission starts, are going to be. It starts a little bit randomly, but not entirely. Are going to be kind of unaware. Like their initial flight patterns are patrols, and they'll move in and attack. And now we're going to see how that happens. So you see up here 6 triangles, right? Because I'm really, really artistic and super good with the map. And inside them is a bunch of clustered words that probably look like absolute nonsense to you, and that's what we're going to clear up. So I said 3 operations per side: supply lines, Army, and Air Force. You might even already see those words: supply lines, Army, and Air Force. This will probably have some kind of indicator as soon as I stop sucking at the map. This is the German side. This is the Russian side. And there's also these little things out here we'll talk about in a second, but the triangles are primary. What this is this is a tree. It's a decision tree, effectively, of what unit comes out next, depending on what events. So they'll always start in their top of this. And this is one of those things I want to point out is not locked into the mission building system. Like these could be a straight line. It doesn't need to be a tree shape. It could be a much more complicated tree shape. That's a little harder, but it can be. And it can be considerably larger and considerably smaller. Like you could just have one. But what this really means in hard nerd parlance, this is a zipper. It's a one-hole context. But what this really means is that only one of these units is active at a time, and that's the control. And these units, this is like a big collection of units that are doing something. And so that's how this system controls exactly what's in play, and also controls performance. So this will normally start. This will always start at either trucks, cars, or anti-artillery trucks. This has been running for a while, so I don't know. I don't remember what it started at, but this is where it is right now. The one with the brackets. If this guy wins, succeeds at its mission. And that means different things for the different units. But generally, if they survive and make it back to their base, they succeeded. And if they all die, they always fail. But there's other fail conditions too. And they do have to actually succeed. You know, like you can stop them in such a way that they don't fail, but they also don't succeed. And they can kind of get stuck there. In fact, it's kind of a technique that can be effective. We'll talk about that in particular that applies to supply. Because the supply, when it succeeds, really boosts other things. Depending on what succeeds, but we'll get there. If the AAA trucks succeed, then they become gun cars, and those gun cars come through. If they fail, they become light tanks, and this is a specialty. Most of these units are column-based on the road, and these light tanks are not, and they're like kind of like aggressive. They're like, oh shit, we've lost a lot. We better put out something that has some defense. If the initial state, which this can come back to if one of these guys fails, it can get back to here, or this guy fails, it can get back to here depending on circumstances. Those details I'm not going to go into right now. And those are specific to the mission builder. It's simple, it's not complicated, but the mission builder gets to decide the logic of how it shifts between these. But it will always be, and this is static and should be, the top right is very much winning, and the bottom right is very much losing. So like as you go up, you're winning, and as you go down, you're losing. So identical for both sides. So like if the trucks would win, then it would be cars, and these cars are kind of like officers. And then if the cars would win, then it would be tanks. If the cars failed, the idea is that if the cars failed, they're kind of out of. Oh, I should talk about these tanks for a second. These are not aggressive tanks. These are like tanks on the road getting moved from one place to another. So and like that makes sense on this mission, and it's deliberate on this mission. Yeah, none of this stuff's locked in. Like these are all picked. Because the tanks are coming across this bridge and setting up and resupplying these tanks that are moving over across like this. And when those tanks show up, if they show up, then the army, which is right here, gets improvements. Dig it? I think that actually makes enough sense. So yeah, you're moving. I kind of suck at explaining things. So ask questions. The idea is that you want to have your sides succeed. And when you're at this last stage, so like you went win, 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 or win, win, lose. This is a real airdrop, by the way. It's Ju-52s. They come in and they land right there. And that's their successes when they land there. Generally, supply drops are very difficult to protect. This one isn't coming in somewhere super dangerous, but this one, the Russians, is coming in right here. And it can totally just get destroyed unless you, the player, can defend them, right? So the Army behaves exactly the same way. The Air Force behaves exactly the same way. These names are supposed to be kind of descriptive. I picked pretty generic names, and both sides have exactly the same types, but they are different units in there. And some things are probably ambiguous. Ground pounders, what are those? Those are just low-flying air attack, Stuka Zil-2s. Stukas I would put in categories outside of ground pounder if they were like maybe way up high, doing some like super high dive bombs, which is really cool, by the way, and I should have put in this mission, but I didn't. This target thing, this is the idea of like a primary target, and it's not, it's totally implemented and it's in the system. Oh, something just changed. Oh yeah, we moved from here to here. Cool. That stuff reflects down here too, by the way. So see, this is the German Air Force, and it says ground pounders. German Air Force, ground pounders. Russian Air Force, ground pounders. Russian Air Force, ground pounders. Right? Yeah, these things should have better names, but whatever. This target is a primary target. Just don't worry about it. Only the AI is dealing with it right now. I'm testing how the AI handles it under different circumstances, and so I don't really want... It's all there. I just don't want you really to mess with it. This is a train, which is like a supply train. And this is kind of like a specialty unit. It could be anything. In this case, it's trains. I forgot to set these to restart, I think, which is unfortunate. But when they succeed, they bump up whatever unit is currently active over here. And if they fail, they're cool in that they can continuously succeed, but if they fail once, they're gone forever. So actually, maybe this guy got bombed and is gone forever. I think I do have them restarting correctly. And all these, by the way, when they fail or win, could actually become entirely different triangles. In this mission, they just restart because I'm testing, but they could become entirely different things. You can set up a multi-phase battle that way. And I found that the size that this mission is, you can double in deactive units and still be totally cool. So that's it. I guess we should go in there and look around just a touch. Let's see if anything's going on. We did have new ground pounders come out over there. Something changed over here. So basically we have, what this means, and I know this pretty well, is that we have 12 low-level ground-hitting aircraft out with a primary advantage on the Germans. The Russians have some anti-artillery trucks out, though, probably because they just got pounded, and they have some heavy tanks out. So they should be actually pretty defensive right here, despite not having a lot of air forces out. They have some IL-2s. I suspect, but it's not certain that they'll get a set of fighters out next. It depends on what happens, right? Oh yeah, I also don't have any statics in the mission yet, like, you know, like the little rings around the artillery. Oh, somebody got shot down. Let's see. It's very hard to, like, you know what, I should just do this. Oh, those guys got blown up too. Oh yeah, they got attacked hard. Well, now I got some people signing in. Also, I kind of forgot that while I'm recording, the video is pretty slow and terrible, as you probably see some chunking. Mission runs really smooth, though, at least for me. And I don't have that beefy of a machine. So yeah, look, let's see, there's some German tanks. Oh yeah, so it looks like some Germans succeeded. It looks like the Germans are kind of winning right now. And then they're going to keep coming across. Yeah, so they made one run. The Germans came in and made one run against this air base, and this will be all full of statics and stuff. But I mean, you can see it's got artillery and a bunch of tanks come out to supply it. Oh yeah, they're getting bombed. I don't think I have any planes close enough to me. It really sucks. It's so hard to like find stuff. I'm not good at moving around. Anywho, hope to see you guys in there, and this is going to be just a little bit more touched up and then be a totally live mission. And I'll see y'all soon.